Get up and get out. Get out. Get out.
I have a question for you.
Say Christ is Lord. Say Christ is Lord. Say it. You say Christ is Lord. Get out. Get out. Christ is Lord.
Hello and welcome in to another episode of Offensively Accurate, hosted by yours truly, Atlas Thug, aka White Boy D-Voice, aka another racially ambiguous groiper. Forgive me, I don't have my glasses near me, so hopefully I will be able to see and read correctly. But I appreciate everybody for being here. Smelly Balls, Todd Sullivan. Who else am I missing in there? Somebody else is in there. Dave, Moss and Miss. Appreciate you guys for being in here. Jackson 1661. Appreciate everybody for being in here. We have a good bit of stuff to get into, and today will be a little bit different because I'm going to focus on kind of supporting and supplanting a good bit of what Nick Fuentes has been getting attacked for, and on two ends. We're just getting right into it. On two ends, the first instance is the fact that he has largely been attacked for his position in being pro the intervention with Venezuela. And now he's being dubbed Neocon Nick, along with everything else that's been coming since Charlie Kirk. We'll also take a look at a position that I've not watched yet, but I do have the clip, and I've got some more context for it. For his take on Jeffrey Epstein today that has sent people reeling. We will be covering all of that, and I'll be giving you my take here. And Wang Half certified. Don't have to worry about it. Not a single black person touched my take. It is white. It is pure. Free of woman influence. Just a lot of that going on today. But some housekeeping before we get started. A couple things. The audio should sound a bit better, I would hope. I did some reworking and some revamping on the audio system on my back end. I just restripped some of these old kind of settings that I had from like a video that was like 3 years ago. Funny enough, I found like some old man who makes content who like actually has a deep voice, and he was pretty intelligent, but I watched his video and it fixed it. And I think it sounds a lot more clear. I hope it is clear, but I would appreciate any feedback outside of you sound like AI. Secondarily, obviously, always going to show for NAV, the New American Vision. We might not be seeing John Ward for a hot minute. He's got to take a break. So you're just seeing a lot more of me, Zeb, and Josh. Also, with that, we'll be opening and launching our review series. Me and Zeb Boykin will be reviewing the Joel Webbin and Nick Fuentes series, and you will see basically a Groiper versus a Wignat. That'll basically be what you'll be seeing in that. In addition to that, I want to also say a special thank you to Alec Barton. It doesn't look like he might be here, but if he sees this and listens to this, thank you very much. He has been single-handedly been the top supporter on buymeacoffee.com. And again, I'll bring that people's attention too. I know a lot of you don't like giving YouTube money. I can't blame you. But if you do want to support me, I do have a secondary link that's not via YouTube. It's just buymeacoffee.com/AtlasThugged. And that link is in the description as well. And that's as much as you'll get from me too. And trust me, I appreciate all the support you guys give me. Honestly, it feels like it's too much sometimes. But I can never be that person who just like asks for, who just asks for the, please send it. Like only if you feel like I did a good job, honestly. Chusuck says, what is the other channel name? That is the New American Vision. It is at NAV_creators. That is the secondary channel. It's the one we built to host things. And ultimately it does have a little bit of a lifespan to it. We wanted to survive on YouTube. But the idea is if anything were to happen, we will host everything on our back end on a website, similar to what you've seen many other creators do. And with that, though, two other things. More casual streams will be incoming. I plan to do and incorporate a lot more of that. You guys like that. I just haven't because I'm just like a very organized person, but I can be casual. Although when I'm casual, I get into a lot of trouble. So we'll see how that works out. And last thing is I finally became a YouTuber, actually. 3 years on the job, I decided, you know what, maybe I will be a YouTuber. So I started a new YouTube series of something in my wheelhouse that I know I can talk quite decent length about. And that is the consequences of feminism. The inaugural episode was about Ashley St. Clair. If you've not watched that, I would encourage you to go watch that. I've thrown all of my editing I threw at that, which to me doesn't seem like much, but I do appreciate all the feedback I've gotten from a lot of you guys and a lot of other creators too. Thank you very much. It does mean a lot. I appreciate it. I've been trying to get better. I want to not to be, a basic reaction face type guy. I would like to do a lot more with the actual creative juices that are in my brain. But with that, let's get into some headlines. That's the housekeeping. Headlines for today. We're just going to be ripping right through it. But again, not too much like actual headlines of today. We will cover some of that. The main stuff we do want to cover is actually give a re-summary and a restatement, really, of everything that was put forward of, what's his name? Nick Fuentes. Lord forgive me, I literally couldn't think. Of Nick Fuentes' kind of his positioning and his explanation and dissertation on the operation in Venezuela. So I'm going to give some details with that because people obviously, and again, in defense of Nick Fuentes, I am pro our action in Venezuela. We'll also cover Ashley St. Clair, although not too much of what I covered in the video, just what's happened since then and kind of where the conversation is. We also got to talk about James Fishback and Sophie Rain, which was the video I made today, getting back and forth into it over the syntax or the idea of a syntax. And that is just quite frankly a disincentivization campaign or pressure really to force OnlyFans creators to give up half of what they make if they're going to make degenerate content, which is good. And there is some nuance in between some arguments there. We'll get into that as well. Beyond there, we also have Riley Gaines endangering her child for women's sports. That's just an insane story. Nick's not a pedophile take we're going to get into. And that's probably going to be the hottest topic of today. I'm sure many of you guys are looking forward to what I'm going to say about that. Shabbos Kestenbaum wants you jailed for antisemitism. And it's not just him. The Jerusalem Post had a conference today that also roped in a few other people. I believe the other girl's name is Brooke Goldstein, both insufferable human beings. And we'll explore them too. But the continuation of the Tucker cost, we can see it. We can see as it's finding it's what you would thought it would end, but it is not going to ever end. And this is kind of one of these things too that I've just noticed in the last couple of years. Just how many of these Jewish organizations that exist where, I mean, like they could have a conference every 3 days, the Jerusalem Post conference, or you can have, the World Zionist Congress, or you can have the American Jewish Council, it's just like, there's so many of them. And then you begin to think it's like, it's not really so much as it like everybody's screaming about anti-Semitism. It's just that of all the organizations that have press conference, it's like it seems like Jews just hold the most press conferences. Hence why you see so many clips proliferating online all the time. But I digress. There's a rumor floating around that Erica Kirk and Tom Brady are dating. I kid you not. Just and I'll be very truthfully honest. I've seen a lot of rumor stuff about Erica Kirk in the last couple of days. Stemming to like from photos and witness testimony from like her being at the Oregon playoff game that happened. I wish I didn't have to get into it, but I will just bring it to your attention, what is being talked about. Nick Fuentes actually went in on Dan Bongino. We have a good clip of that I want to cover as well, too. An update on the ICE agent in Minnesota who was actually hit. It was reported by CBS News, actually, that he was hospitalized because he suffered internal bleeding to his torso. And this is in quite opposite 180 of what everybody was saying. He barely got hit. He was barely touched. Well, he was internally bleeding. So how about that? And we also have Casey Push is already getting the white nationalist pressure. We have a little bit of an interview clip. We'll look at that, but he's already getting it. What do you identify as? Are you a white nationalist? Do you identify with white nationalism? What are you? What are white nationalist? What is white nationalist? So we'll cover that. That and we knew that was coming. And it all does look like the reparations, the $1 billion package for reparations for blacks in San Francisco did pass. We have some news about that as well, which is just insane. And good luck to everybody in San Francisco. We also have a couple other small things, just a couple gays of the day. But also Oprah Winfrey said that she has the obesity gene. And Lord, if you can hear me, please make my job a little bit easier. But we have a lot to get into. We're going to start at the top with the Venezuela operation.
Cut straight through, offensively accurate, that's the view.
So this is going to probably be the most lengthy portion of the show as we're going to kind of discuss this. I took a huge amount of notes. I actually got a couple of comments from some of you guys asking if I had seen his recent takes on it. And so that's where we're going to actually go ahead and start. So Nick Fuentes returned to America First on Monday. He had taken a decent bit of a break. He had responded to Christina in Ohio, which again, RIP to her. It is unfortunate, and it's kind of been actually heartening to see some of the responses from, I believe, her son and the back and forth with Nick on there, but that's a side point. And it was all about Venezuela. And one of the first things I will say is something that I had posed probably about a week or two ago on the onset of the operation, which was when I was looking at the framing from Timothy Gordon, talking about the just war theory and what would fall in there. The first thing I thought was this action fails the secondary definitions, all of the secondary definitions of a war. It only qualifies as a war under the most technical of definitions, which is an armed political conflict. Outside of that, if you look at duration, brutality, scale, it doesn't match any of those. I mean, we were talking and people were bragging about the fact that the operation it was shorter than Will telling the world that he's gay in Stranger Things. I mean, this is kind of a joke. And so he pushes once more, Nick does, the idea of the Monroe Doctrine. And this is where I fall on the issue as well, which is the idea that if America's future's interest or its ability to determine its own future, its own security, its survival, and prosperity ever becomes threatened, or even the slightest feeling of that become threatened, America needs to act. America needs to act in its own interest. And the best way that Nick described this was the security dilemma. And this is just quite easily most described as what you can see in something like Fallout. Fallout had a recent kind of scene about this, where it was the main two characters, the black chick and the white girl with the big eyes. They are trying to walk through this train station, and they see two other raiders across the other side. Nobody knows each other. They both want to survive. They both know they're in an environment where it's not very peaceful. I mean, this is a post-apocalyptic scenario. They are enacting in their own different interests. They're like two different sovereign entities. It's like the black girl and the main characters, and then these two random raiders. And what you see in there is this brother, the black brother, who's a SEAL from the Brotherhood of SEAL, is making calculations on the fly of trying to see if these people are friendly or if they're hostile. And very quickly he's like, I can't even make this calculation. We're just going to treat them as hostile. I'm going to lie about them. We are armed. And so you can see this acting in his own interest. All of a sudden, all of these principles about maybe lying or whatever go out the window, because now we're in a security situation. Because I don't know if it'd be in my better interest to wait and hope that they're friendly, or is it better that we, again, act in? So again, the security dilemma is just this idea of which, is it better to not act and wait, or is it better to act first? Do you want to be the one defending or on the offense? Because again, you're just throwing it up to chance if that situation is presenting itself at all. And you're trying to guess and calculate the obviously the objectives of the person across the side of the aisle from you. But again, geopolitical stance, that was what America First is, right? And so this is kind of, we're seeing this more and more, but we got into it a little bit, obviously, with the Charlie Kirk take. But we're seeing where this big split is happening for all these people whose only heuristic of only value that they have is they're anti-Israel. That's their primary operate, right? It's like, as long as this person's anti-Israel, I'll listen to them. It's like that becomes the prior hierarchical value. Whereas I don't think that's the hierarchical value of what America First is, although it is very strongly tied with it, and obviously you would be anti-Israel on any sense of the grounds. But prioritizing positive, it would be America First, right? America's interests come first, not Israel not getting benefits, right? It's like somewhere on that list it's there, but America First is at the very top. And so with this, you're finding that there is what he deemed it, which is this anti-Semitism bubble, which is a lot of people who, for lack of better words, was red-pilled yesterday. And a lot of this does come from the fact there's like a term that was thrown around early on in 2023, which is, they call them, the October 7th gripers. And I think PineSap even referred to me as that too, which, that was around the time when I was beginning to really to notice, if you will. And what I can see, and what I can tell you for a fact, is a lot of these people are literally being manipulated. And I think Candace Owens is a strong example of that. And I think when you look at Candace Owens now, despite everything going on, her continuation in this cycle has now kind of forced her, it's strong-armed her into being in a really poor position. And now she really can't even cover news. She's like going down in these insane rabbit holes. But side point, in the simplest terms, there are a lot of people who are watching Nick's show who are literally liberal. I mean, that's probably the simplest way I can explain it. They're not Christian nationalists. They might be right wing, but they're not full blown far right wing Christian nationalists, right? And that's not to say, I mean, I would want all these people to be Christian nationalists. But when we're seeing these reactions, and you're seeing like in the Telegram's chat that was botted that people were sharing these screenshots of, it's these people who do look at anything that America would do, and they would view that as bad. These people who are actually tied to this idea of America being the great Satan, and that anything America does that would be beneficial for itself is all bad because some unnamed banker might also benefit. And this idea that it's like, as long as, and it's the same way, it's like the idea is no matter how much it benefits the American people, if it even for $1, 1 penny benefits Israel or a banker in America, it's got to be thrown and burned at the stake. But again, that's not the primary operative. That's not the primary thinking. In fact, it's the inverse. It's America first is like, what is in America's interest? America first. Now, again, in that language, in that Semitic language, it doesn't say America only, although some people do say America only. But in simpler terms, it's America first, as in we prefer American interest over all others. To me, it's quite simple, but it seems that we are finding these splits along these lines because of all the events that have happened in the last year or so, maybe a little bit beyond there, has forced in such a frenzied way a lot of people to be very anti-Israel, and for obvious reasons. But it has basically compressed a lot of people under one banner. Now they're looking around going, wait a minute, I don't actually agree with you. And that's because the only thing actually linking all these people is their disbelief in anti-sentiments towards Israel. And so, and one of these things, I didn't see any of this at all, but just to give more, supposition to that, he had even further made this point by saying that he had noticed, now I didn't see any of this, but he had said that he had saw people who were cheering on like the Venezuelan air defense, cheering on that American pilots would die because of their belief that the intervention was on the behest of Israel. And that's showing you like how far this, like that has to be your operant metric, is there's just at any cost Israel must suffer. Now don't get me wrong, I'm not pro-Israel by any sense, but I'm not going to sit there and wish for American pilots to be harmed just for to win an internal battle, like, and so I can tweet about it on X. Like, to me, that's insane. Now, I didn't see any of that, but he did make mention of that on the show. A sidebar before we get into the full-blown operation. He is now pushing for looks maxing as well, which is hilarious. I love that. Looks maxing, going to the gym. Now, he did say, don't sit there and start putting, do all the drugs in the world. Even Clav said those too. But it's good. And this is kind of a push I've been waiting for, but I'm glad that he recognizes it. Because ethos and optics and who your audience is matters so tremendously when we are existing in the attention economy. So I'm glad for that. And turning to the operation, though, there is this element of taking, a lot of pride in the operation. And I do think for an element of that is that it was like this very sophisticated use of military force. And it was, we don't even know what weapons they were using. Now that does that does strike the fear of God in some people. And I do think for good reason, just thinking of like what technology the American government may possess that ultimately is like way beyond what we even think it might be. I understand that. That's always going to be a problem. I don't know how you avoid that national security dilemma. Because if the people know the full scale of what the military is capable of, then you will be always 100% liable that information ends up in the hands of people who you don't want it to be. And again, that's another more of a bit of a side point there. But and Nick goes a link with this, right? There were 7 injuries total. There were 7 injuries total to our guys. Only injuries. Nobody died. 80 Venezuelans passed, though. And of the 7 people who were injured, 5 of them have already returned to duty. So only 2 are actually kind of hurt or out now, or currently hospitalized. And so the overall kind of like look from a lot of people, and I was seeing this from people like Harrison Smith and Sovereign Bra, which was like, despite how you feel about it, just witnessing it and seeing it happen in video and how quickly it happens and how just the difference in power scale between the United States and a country like Venezuela. For a lot of people, it was like, that's pretty sick. That was cool to see. Just taking pride in the general idea that like we are America. Like this isn't like we're American, like we're the big dogs, and like here, how about I drag how we're going to drag our, metaphorical balls across the rest of these countries' face. And just like in a very basic sense of a guy seeing an explosion, like that's cool, right? Now, the issue that gave him a bit of hesitancy for Nick was where do we draw the line? And to what end, right? Now that we have Maduro, now that he's captured, now that he's arrested, what's the next step? And I think that's what gave a lot of people hesitancy. And I still think we have yet to see, we need to see a bit more from there. Although I will say, and I'll say this again, I thought the Nick's episode on Monday on this Venezuelan situation was a masterclass. So if you missed it and you might still be confused about what I'm saying here, I promise you, go and catch that video. It's the majority of the show is covering this stuff. But it's the idea of who's the winner now. Who won from this? Did America actually benefit from this? Did this actually cost Venezuela? Did it cost China? Who are the players here? Why was this move made? Is Israel involved? And he gets into it, right? He gets into the pretext of, forgive me. He gets into the pretext of it, how the pretext is entirely fake. It was false. And this is what we knew. We knew this. We knew for a hot minute that the pretext of the Tren de Aragua and the Children of the Sun, or whatever that cartel they keep saying he's the head of, we knew that was fake. And very quickly, once after they had arrested him, the DOJ moves away from some of those claims. They say, oh, you know what, we might have been wrong. And the issue, though, is actually that the fentanyl is largely coming from China, and it's being trafficked through Mexico, and it's almost all of it. In Venezuela, again, we talked about this multiple streams ago, the Venezuelan fentanyl production that comes into America is very minuscule. And the majority of their drug production actually goes to Europe. So then it moved to the oil. And so now people were kind of questioning, like, so then it must be the oil. The oil, because we're looking at the biggest asset, right? What is the biggest asset of Venezuela? And that's what people begin to look at. And so they're looking at the oil. They're breaking down. And again, like I'd pointed out a couple of streams ago, a lot of people immediately in the aftermath were saying, no, there's no way it can be about oil because the infrastructure that will need to be built and serviced is too big of a timeline for this to be any kind of short-term benefit. And that is true, given the fact that with the heavy, it's the heavy crude sour oil, right, which has a few different distinctions between sweet and light, or not light. It's heavy and heavy and light. And there's two different kinds, but we did have the infrastructure for this and the oil refineries in Texas and Louisiana. But the questions are about the oil. The questions are about how much will we benefit from this? And people immediately go, well, if we're not going to benefit this from the short term, the oil doesn't make any sense. But that's where Nick started doing this masterclass. And I'm going to start breaking a good bit of this down because I have a lot of these notes here. So I will start here. Venezuela is a petrol state. They've been mainly selling their oil to China. However, Venezuela massively underperforms selling their oil, or massively underperforms in comparison to their size. So in comparison to their size, they're only making about 800 to 1 million barrels a day. It's like, or 800 to 1.2 million a day, depending on who you're looking at, which is, compared to their reserves, it is the biggest disparity of any petrol state or any petrol country in the world, which the low estimates put them at sitting on like 300 billion barrels, and some of the American estimates on the high end put them close to 1 trillion barrels. So they contribute to less than 1% of the global production in the world, because global production in the world for oil is around 105 million barrels a day. So it's not for the production capability, it's for the proven reserves. But that's where you run into the next hiccup. And there's a potential that these reserves will provide this massive long-term benefit. But it's on that scale that when you look at what the oil execs have responded with, the oil execs are not happy with this. And part of the reason is the fact that for arbitrating contracts in that area and in Venezuela, the historical record shows that they will continually F over American companies. And in Nick's words, they will essentially, use assets and then not provide recourse. And on the same end, if there was anything happening, any kind of dispute between, this oil company and the state of Venezuela or anything like that, there is also no recourse, right? There is no kind of international court that will see these things. It's basically somebody's going to get screwed. So a lot of the oil execs have even came out and said, like, they are not ready and willing to start investing billions of dollars into Venezuela because they don't have the guarantee, for one, a return on investment given the timeline here, and two, they would like to see a proof of environment for robust contract enforcement before they start sending a bunch of their guys out there. And then you also have the elements of the piracy and just the general cartel trade out there too, so it's not like it's a decent environment to even live in. So then it's all kind of questionable, because in the initial kind of reporting of the incident after the fact was, oh, these oil execs knew everything was going on, and they're all in on it entirely. Like, they had these conversations with Trump. Well, from coming from the execs is like they're not happy about it. They don't want to feel like they're about to get strong armed and having to dump money over into overseas. Now, they haven't said they won't do it completely. Chevron is one of the companies that actually American oil that already exists in Venezuela, or works with Venezuela, I should say. And their estimates in the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years of what they would be able to produce or actually ramp up production for Venezuela to be would be only taking it from around 800 to 1 million a day to 1.5 million a day. So again, that's a 50% increase. That's massive, or even a little bit beyond there. But it's still not this massive kind of energy source, at least not yet. Now, if you look historically, and this is going to be a good bit of what I would imagine the reasoning it comes into here, and this is a lot, so I apologize if it's boring, but there's a lot here. Back in I think it was like in the late 90s, they began a lot of process by building infrastructure in Texas and Louisiana for refineries, and it was about 18 oil refineries all told. The only issue was around the time they began wrapping up the infrastructure for these areas was around the same time that the heavy crude sour oil, was actually the oil wells were drying up in both Mexico and Venezuela in the 2000s. And so America had invested in all this infrastructure to make all of this, and then the countries that they would be able to get it on the cheap for ended up considerably and drastically falling from production. Now, Mexico, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but Venezuela went from somewhere at their peak was around 3.5 million barrels a day, and now they're sitting around 800,000. And so they've continually kind of fallen. And part of this is because they are controlled by this socialist regime. And again, it's a little bit gangsterish. And obviously, they're a bit in for themselves, have a bit more in-group preference, so they're less so concerned about boosting their oil across the world, but they do what they have to. And, and it's not about access for China either. Because when you look at the access for China, only about 4% of their imports come from Venezuela. So even if you were to look at it from the pressure of China, it's not that big either. It's definitely not a pressure on global oil prices, because we already talked about Venezuela makes up less than 1% of global oil production. So taking them off the market's going to almost be like they didn't exist in the first place. And so you think about it too, like, not only did Maduro offer this massive big deal, which he wanted to keep control of the military, but Nick had also pointed out that Rick Grenell had negotiated a deal with Venezuela for their oil, I believe as something as last year. So most people looking at this, then it's like, it's got to be this big long-term. It's got to be this big long-term idea. It's got to be this long-term benefit then, and it's kind of hard to kind of articulate then why we quickly made this action. It feels like there's something else there. People also throw it in like the minerals of the area, which only even the preliminary stuff hasn't been happening yet. We don't actually know the true kind of value of what the rare earth minerals are in Venezuela, and largely because they've not been exploited. So there's no infrastructure there. It's like we know they're there, but how many of them, what's the quality, and everything beyond there, et cetera, it would also take years and years to build the infrastructure around there, where places like the Congo and elsewhere already have it. And that's part of the cost, right? The overhead cost of building whole process plants, refineries, doing it the legal way, not with child labor. All these things cost a lot of money. And yes, make sure you hit the like button, or Delta Force will get you. So when you return back to the historical idea, so what then happened to these refineries? Well, when we needed this heavy crude oil, and then we have these refineries and this infrastructure to make it, but we have both Mexico and Venezuela are drying up, this is where the pipelines from Canada come in. So Canada steps in, and they start sending us heavy crude oil. And this is where the pipelines that have been talked about for as long as I've been involved in politics come in from, because they are having to give the oil from Canada and they have to redirect it all the way down to the refineries that we built in Texas and Louisiana, which is a large distance. So here's where it comes into play. Shipping the oil from Venezuela by boat to those refineries that exist in Texas and Louisiana is actually going to be cheaper than shipping and getting the oil from Canada through the pipeline. So what this has done is this has now made Venezuelan oil the preferred oil. This is now the best bang for your buck oil, meaning that it won't drive oil prices down globally, but this is a large leverage mechanic against Canada, and it moves some of Canadians' ability to economically hold leverage over the United States away. And now Canada will have to lower their prices to better compete with the Venezuelan oil that will be coming across. So there's a bit of this pressure here with Canada. Forgive me. And so beyond there, you also have Cuba comes into play as well too. So like we talked about with China, China has this only 4% of oil coming from Venezuela. Whereas when you look at Cuba, Cuba has about 30% of its imports are coming from Venezuela, which is massive for Cuba. Now Cuba only needs about 100,000 barrels a day because they're a much smaller country. But if they're getting 30,000 from Venezuela essentially for free, and now that it's gone, that is a massive energy crisis and now massive pressure facing Cuba, which again, all signs are pointing to America is moving on the geopolitical in Latin America and just in our hemisphere. So that does rope in Canada, that does rope in Cuba, that does rope in El Salvador, all the Southern American countries, Greenland. So it's becoming clear that there is an obvious push by the Americans or North America, and they even said this in one of these national security councils, one of these briefings, is that because America has spent so much time wasting its attention and efforts and peoples in the Middle East theater of war, that we have forsaken our own theater of war, the North and West Hemisphere. And it's in there that you can see that there's clear, Operation Southern Spear, that it's clear that all signs, once again, are pointing to America essentially shutting down all the other nations around them and kind of formatting their superiority, their kind of hegemony in the hemisphere that we exist in, which again ropes in all the countries we've been hearing talks about, Greenland, Canada, Cuba, etc. And also inside of there, it does rope in Nicaragua and some of the more socialist allies of Venezuela who are also receiving oil. Some of those figures I have less so on me, but the main thing that I kind of took away from that too, because that's one of the big ones, right? These pressures on these other countries that have been basically kind of screwing us. But then the secondary thing comes in, which is this is more so on the play of a chilling effect, a ripple effect, a chilling effect of it would be better for you countries to listen to us when we tell you what to do the first time than to not cooperate with us at all. Because if you don't cooperate with us, we may just arrest your president, and we may bring him here for charges. So, again, this has to be said probably for the third or fourth time. The scope of Venezuela is much bigger than Venezuela, and it is a return to what even Pat Buchanan would have been behind, which is this Monroe Doctrine and American posterity, and doing what we must on the geopolitical scale to counter people like more so China right now, less so Russia, but more so China to counter them. And especially if you look at the trade partners in the South Americas, or the South America, I should say, what you will find is China has quickly consumed its way to being the number 2 trade partner. And so what we find ourselves, when you look at the national strategy in America geopolitically, is what you found is because we've been basically benefiting Israel and only caring about Jewish issues in the Middle East, we're now in a situation where you have to take immense action and some would say drastic measures to get China and the rest of our hemisphere, for one, to get out of here, but then to recommand the hemisphere. So people like, I always forget her name, but the Jewess who leads Mexico, and so there's other people, right? The Colombia's president who said these things. Do you think they're going to be sitting there and dancing and shaking after the fact now? Perhaps they might. But I do think I do think for most of these countries, there will be a chilling effect. And I would imagine, given all the statements and the invasion plans from places like Greenland, and it talks about Mexico and Cuba, there's a very high chance you see another operation just like Maduro happening again and very soon, especially if they don't cooperate. And that seems to be what that is. They want this reverse kind of domino effect. What they want to do is hopefully everybody sees what happened in Venezuela. They don't have to do that again, and now everybody starts listening to them and we play ball. So we come into this, and again, one thing that needs to be said too with Marco Rubio, I want to make mention of this as well. Marco Rubio is Cuban American, and he is from Florida, which is a lot of Cuban Americans are from Florida. I wonder why. And Nick made mention of this also probably being a little bit on the personal side of him, having a bit of a personal vendetta against Cuba. And also the fact, too, because Mike Walls was dismissed earlier this year for the the Signalgate chat and all that. What you end up seeing, though, too, is Marco Rubio is actually like one of the most powerful Secretary of States of American history. Because not only is he the Secretary of State and he's in his actual department that he was brought on for, he's also the head of the NSA because he became the acting director of when Mike Walls was dismissed. So he's the head of two departments, and now you've been seeing all these memes that have been hitting on the timeline, which is, it's like J.D. Vance's plot line, and it's like, it's like the guy with like the fro, it's like the meme of him, and then it's like Marco Rubio's, plot line. It's like a scene from Battlefield 6, like a guy like mowing people down. It's pretty funny. But just wanted to make mention of that. I would imagine there is an element of Marco Rubio. I mean, everybody knew what he was before he came in. Marco Rubio had the neocon tag and the Warhawk tag coming in. I guess so long as he's willing to maintain Monroe Doctrine and not stretch to Israel wars in the Middle East, that's fine. And that seems to be where a lot of people are having the hiccup here. And so let's get into where people are actually, where it gets very controversial, where people are having an issue. So the intervention that's receiving the neocon tag, and people are saying, neocon Nick for supporting it. It's just another neocon war. Well, the thing is neoconservatism is an ideology, and it's been around for essentially about the last 100 years. Well, about the last 80 years or so. And for anybody who doesn't have the actual historical foundation of like where it came from, well, get ready to learn a little bit. Its actual foundations does come from the actions that took place in the proxy conflict that was occurring between America and Russia in the late 1960s and moved on to the 1970s. And this is partly what occurred during the Cold War. This is also during the period of time in which there was a lot of gun smuggling and gun running that was being done by the terrorist groups that later founded Israel, or they'd have founded Israel at that point, but they were fighting for and vying for positions. The Haganah, there's three groups, I always forget the names of them, but the Haganah were like one of the main ones. And you end up getting you get an arms race, essentially. And this arms race is the fact that Israel is importing a bunch of guns that they're getting from America, and Egypt and Syria doesn't like that. And so Egypt and Syria, wanting to equal the playing field, they began getting their guns from the Soviet Union. And this, now you can see there's this beginning of this proxy conflict. And so when the Soviet Union is backing places like Egypt and Syria, and you have what occurs in the 1967 Arab-Israel War, I believe that's what it's called, or the Israeli-Arab War, you have what they see, which is Israel gets very close to being smoked. And when they see Israel is getting very close to being smoked, their alarm bells go off. And to them, much like what seems a lot of people are like right now, for a lot of these left-wing Jews, their primary and operant belief is anything for the sake of Israel, i.e. Israel first. And so what you have is this reaction from all of these left-wing Jews, where they see that not only is Israel going to be just outright, it might be disappeared and destroyed after all this work to get it to where it's at, all the smuggling, all the gun running, all the people getting arrested in America trying to help Israel. And they also see that the person who did it was the Soviet Union. And this has this main reaction of where a lot of these left-wing Jews flip sides. They flip over to the right wing because they want to join sides of the people who are opposing the Soviet Union and communism. And now that they've identified the Soviet Union as being the existential threat to Israel, and not just physically, but also metaphorically, also in the sense that what they were turning around was what you were getting in the rhetoric coming from the Soviet Union was Zionism is racism. Zionism is racism. And so the way they perceive that, because all these left-wing Jews, are completely 100% against Israel, at least that's what their exponents, what they're saying is no racism, right? We can't, there's 0% tolerance of racism. This is at the peak of the civil rights era. And so what they have from that is, if they're saying Zionism is racism, what they're perceiving it as is Zionism is something that should not exist, i.e., where you get Israel doesn't have the right to exist, which is when they come in and respond, Israel does have the right to exist. And so you can see some of these lines as they show themselves historically. But it defines what MAGA is right now. It defines what a lot of the right wing has been since I've been alive, which is a bunch of these left-wing Jews who maintained all of their other liberal beliefs and only changed on who they were willing to bomb, joined the right wing. So next thing you know, again, neocon, new conservative, you have a bunch of new conservatives who are only there simply for the fact that they're joining arms and teaming up with the people who want to destroy the Soviet Union, which are people who are very anti-red. So that kind of gives you an idea of like what the neoconservative kind of ideology comes from. And so specifically in there, though, you have this operant idea, though, that a neocon specifically is someone tied to promoting, and it's for Israel's benefit. So it's like neoconservative, the linchpin of their belief system is the fact that they are a conservative for the only reason for supporting Israel. Like that is what a neoconservative is. It is like someone who is only conservative, a new conservative, because of their belief in the war extension of such, and the way that plays out in benefiting Israel physically, kinetically. So just to give you an idea of what this neocon is. Whereas in this situation here with Venezuela, what are the benefits? Like where are the direct interests, right, to Israel? And I'm sure there are some. Don't get me wrong, but the idea here would be like for it to be a full-blown, for it to be neocon, it would need to be this was done only in the attempt because we wanted to support a physical warfare or skirmish or conflict for Israel's benefit or for Israel's defense. And in there, you don't find that in this operation. Jefferson, I'm not seeing some of the comments on here, just on the top right. Yes, dude, YouTube has been suppressing this like crazy. I've been seeing some weird stuff on my channel, so yeah, switch to the live chat if you can, because top chat will also filter stuff, but they should see everything in the top right corner here. I'm reading stuff. Forgive me, I just have a lot of stuff here. I'm trying to be observant as much as I can. Apologize. I kind of forgot where I was at too. Forgive me. I have such a big thing of notes over here. And so, but in there though, you also have this idea of what their forward-facing value is, though, as they attach themselves to the conservatives. What they're doing is they're now going, well, we oppose the Soviet Union because we believe in democracy. We believe in liberal values. We believe in Western liberal values. We believe in the free market and a liberal society. And so they push for all of these kinds of values, and that's the face of it. And so when you see all of the actions, like just going back to the forever wars here in America, what's the rhetoric there? What was the reasoning for nation building in all these places? It was because we wanted to spread democracy. We wanted to spread liberal values. We wanted them to be like us, right? We want women to vote. But that's not present in this operation here either. And even furthermore, we didn't even do regime change. We didn't even do regime change. And in fact, all the reports coming out immediately after the math, everybody was saying, and he's definitely going to pick, what was her name? It's like Maria something Machado. And she's like this pro-Israel, like, I love Jews. And she's like waiting to be picked. And she wasn't. And right now, well, all you essentially had was the top in command was taken out. The second in command took over. And everybody just kind of moves up a position. Everybody got to rank up. Ding, +1, you get 1 skill point. And so you can't even find that there was a regime change there, because regime change is also a part of what neoconservatism is. It is sitting there and taking them and going, we're going to institutionalize liberal Western values here as well. And so when you look at the operation, it fails the definition of a war, especially in my opinion, especially all the secondary definitions. And you can look it up too. Just go to Britannia Encyclopedia, look up the definition of a war. It's also failing to meet neoconservative definition because we're not sitting there trying to change the structure of their government. We're not trying to and furthermore, you have people like Elliot Abrams and all these actual like old neocons complaining and writing articles. You can find them right now, who are complaining about the fact that we're not doing regime change, complaining about the fact that we didn't take more of the regime out, that we're not placing more stops in their government, that we're not putting more hands deeper in the side of them, because that wasn't what they were looking for. It looks like the American government could care less who's voting, how they're voting, whatever. Just give us the oil when we ask you to. So, and then, and again, where's the regime change? The lady who's in power right now, Delcy Rodriguez, said is an anti-Zionist. Said directly, the quotation directly after it happened was screaming about how, what occurred and what took place had Zionist undercurrents to it. And so you still have what do they call them? The Chavista, which is like basically the brainchild of Hugo Chavez. That's like what they call themselves. That's the faction that's in power. They're still in power. We just took the head of the snake out. And so it seems for whatever reason that no matter what, it seems that people want, and it seems for the most that I see people who are very against what is occurring, like they want America to fail. And when you have people like Jeffrey Sachs, who is celebrated and proposed by a lot of these people who are anti-Israel, because he heavily dislikes Netanyahu. He thinks he's an evil person, and he is. What you also find in there is quotes from and Nick made mention of this too, that, man, isn't it so good that the age of European colonialism is ending? Man, isn't it great that America's time at number one is finally over? Isn't it great that we're... What? What? I'm actively trying to prevent America from going under. And then you have people who seriously argue that if China was to nuke the United States, it would be preferable to anything beneficial to America. That it would be liberating somehow. That if China were to win, or if Venezuela was to thwart us. And I'm not even going to try to be rude in the slightest, but that is entirely removed from understanding the pragmatic, just having a basic kind of hands-on approach to how these things operate. Can I at the very least agree that taking Greenland from Danes is anti-white to some degree? I would have to think about that. Because I'm sure there's a few different nuance arguments that you can make. But again, I'm not Danish. So I don't give a shit. I care about America. And the thing is too, is you get all these well, what about Christian values, about Christian this, and then they argue for feminism. It's like, dude, you are a liberal. You are a liberal. And what I do think at the broad sense of this is the anti-interventionists are leaving America first. And I think that you should. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. If you are an anti-interventionist, wholeheartedly, absolutely, and that is your operant value, the America first isn't your ideology. You would be better off with Clint Russell and Ron Paul and Rand Paul and Dave Smith because you're a libertarian. The America first, you're not a right winger. And I do think some of that is I do think people do need to think what are they? What do you actually believe? Not just on one issue, but on a scale. Put 10 issues on a map and think about it. Where are you? Because one thing that I don't understand is all these people who aren't even Christian are watching Nick Fuentes. Why? Like to me, that's like I get so confused by that. Why do you think me as a Christian nationalist will share your value with you as a liberal libertarian? That's just nonsensical from the get go. It's like I said verbatim. I'm like, I believe in this and you believe in that. Of course we don't agree, and of course we don't have the same future visions. So, with that being said, I do think a lot of people who probably recently fell into in love with Nick Fuentes and the Generational Run are probably finding themselves going, wait a minute, I don't actually agree with this. And people are like saying like he flip-flopped and stuff, and it was like, then dude, 2 seconds later, here's a clip from 2019 of him talking about Venezuela. It's like people are just like, and a lot of it might just be clip watchers too. And I encourage people, you got to watch the full show. Nick Fuentes is the only person I watch personally that I have to pause so I can write shit down so I can check it later. Because he just rips, dude. He'll just like, and sometimes it's like in a 30-second bit, and I'm like, dude, he said 10 names there. I'm like, hold on, dude, slow down, man. I'm like writing them down, I'm going back 10 seconds. I listen to a lot of other people, I don't have to do that. They either talk about things I already know. It's not being that in depth. And in hell, here I am just giving a basic summary of what he said. And I'm doing like 10% of the justice of what he did on his actual show. But I'm saying this to show you, like, I do agree with Nick. In defense of Nick Fuentes, that's what the title of the stream is. And those are my positions, and I agree with them. In terms of, what we'll see down in the long term, I think there is questions that it couldn't go poorly. It's every day is a new day. There are chances for things to get, co-opted and hijacked and taken over. And if neocons get their way, this could be directed and redirected in a way that we don't want to see it. But as it sits right now, I am pro America acting in its own interest. I am pro the world not being. And here's the thing, like at the rate we're going, like we're going to get globalism. I don't want to have globalism, but like I can even get grown men to stand up to their wives. So dude, I'm losing faith in reality very quickly. And so you have to look at things from different framings. You have to be pragmatic, right? And for some people, they can't engage in hypotheticals they hate. But sometimes you have to. Sometimes you have to prepare for the worst and pray for the best. You just have to. And so the thing is the way I looked at it is it's like, would you rather live in a Russian dominant world, a China dominant world, or an American dominant world? Now, it seems like it's not a choice now, but this question could be very, very different if asked and posed, 100 years from now, 50 years from now. And there are some realities which they have to be considered. So I do heavily encourage a lot more of a pragmatic and realistic look. That's what I said about the Venezuela thing in the first place. Like, here's my time machine. Let me go back and save Maduro. Like, you can't. So move on, move forward, find out what the next step is. And again, a lot of this does go to the fact too, which is like, we still need people to be more polymaths. We need people to, again, be better physically, intellectually, spiritually, all of it, boosting themselves in that sense. I don't know how many times I have to say I'm a Christian nationalist, I'm a groyper, I believe in Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ is my savior. I believe in him wholeheartedly. I believe he died for my sins. Like, I don't know what I have to say to people for they'll stop asking me the stupidest shit. And I'm not trying to be rude. But I'm a Christian nationalist. I want my nation to be Christian. I want the heathens driven out. And hell, if I had a spear, I'd chuck it at them too. Get out of my country. You don't belong here. I want this nation to return to its roots. It is ostensibly a white nation that was built by European immigrants, white European immigrants, free white European immigrants. I want my nation to reflect that. I want my nation, and I want the people who are in it, who are around me, my coworkers, my family, the people who are in office. I want them to feel like they represent me. I want to stop listening to feminists. I want to stop listening to Indians who can't speak English. I want America to be the nation that it was always destined to be. So I'll say that as many times as I have to, but I feel like some people are at some point expecting like, oh, I can't believe I listened to Nick so long. He flip-flopped. Never going to happen. And if that disappoints some people, so be it. But I felt like I've been very particularly honest, that I'm very pro-Nick. I'm like a Nick loyalist. You get honesty from me, and that's me being honest with you. But to move off of there, though, that was obviously the big section there about the Venezuelan operation, the Venezuela take. I will say there is another through line to everything, which is the fact of the Argentina wildfires that are occurring in the Patagonia. I hate to say wildfires, but the Israeli tourists, I am looking at that. I've been aggregating information on that. I'll probably cover it later in the week. We might react to it on the monitoring the situation as well. Listen, you guys can disagree all you want. Totally can, dude. Like, you can disagree all you want, dude. It's a free world. You're wrong. But you can disagree all you want, man. Moving on, though, Ashley St. Clair. Ashley St. Clair was obviously the hot topic over the weekend, and it was one of the most disgusting things I think I ever had to bear witness to. And it just went from bad to worse. And I started the series off of the consequences of feminism with that. I won't cover too much of what I already covered in the video, but I will go ahead and put... Yep. Oh, LOL, that's not a good thing. Dude, okay. I tried, man. I tried. Oh, now we're bringing in Jesus, dude. Now we're bringing in Jesus. Lord have mercy. I knew it was going to go like this. I wholeheartedly knew it was going to go like this. Anyways, Ashley St. Clair, she's been going on this tangent. Obviously, it's, in my opinion, she wants revenge on Elon Musk. She wants to go pretty heavily at this. The Grok angle, the Mecha Hitler, she's now calling X as like, it's all these Nazis, everything. And so she sits down with CBS and she's going to war with Elon Musk. Now, it's sad because what we got was, what really blew the story open was she randomly kind of puts out this apology that was quote tweeted by a lot of people in the space, where she's apologizing to some random account about her role in harming the trans community. Now, it's a bit more verbose than that, but that's what it kind of boils down to. And so far, she's even came out and said like she wants her name taken off the Elephants Are Not Birds book, which is something that I highlighted in the video as well. She wrote while she was working for, I believe, the Babylon Bee, for Brave Books Publishing, a children's book that talks about being, that has a very strong Christian and anti-transgender message. Now she's apologizing for all of that. So we have some of the latest, and I do think there is a debate that should be had about AI. The only issue is a lot of this kind of recent anger is stemming from the Grok portion of it. It's stemming from the trend. Grok put her in a bikini. Grok put her in a bikini. Put her in a, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And people were freaking out because it was any user could do it. Even non-premium users could do it. What we got from there, though, was there was a reaction from a lot of women who were like, oh my gosh, this is dangerous. But one of the arguments that I did hear that I think that should be explored a little bit is the fact that there are already a bunch of other tools that allow the users to do this. It's just the fact that Grok does it best. And so, for example, like Photoshop. Photoshop's existed for Lord knows how long. You can take a picture of any woman that you find anywhere, and an artist can draw whatever he wants to. He can craft an image. The only issue is now with Grok that it's a lot more realistic than what what everything and all the other tools have preceded it for. But let's just start here. This was her sitting down at CBS Morning to talk about her war with Elon Musk. If I can get it to load. Here we go.
The worst for me was seeing myself undressed, bent over, and then my toddler's backpack in the background, because I had to then see that and see myself violated in that way and such horrific images, and then put that same backpack on my son the next day, because it's the one he wears every day to school.
St. Clair, an author and mother of two, has a son with Musk. She's one of many victims of non-consensual sexual deepfakes created and shared by Grok.
Did you ask Grok to take those photos down?
I did, multiple times. Grok said, I confirm that you don't consent. I will no longer produce these images. And then it continued to produce more and more images and more explicit images.
St. Clair says she filed a report directly with XAI, which operates Grok. Some of the images were then removed.
When you think about the person who is leading this tech and making it available to the public, what do you want to say to that?
Make it stop.
I'm telling you, I have no idea who put this music in the background. I think it had been Dom Luker, dude. But that's the dumbest thing ever. Please don't put music like this on these videos, dude. It's a little bit aggressive, to be honest.
This can be stopped with a singular message to an engineer.
Last week, Malaysia and Indonesia banned Grok, while regulators in the United Kingdom have launched an investigation. A recent study by AI Forensics, a nonprofit that investigates the algorithms of major platforms, found that more than half of the Grok images they reviewed contained individuals in minimal attire, the vast majority of them women.
Who
What
is
do you
making
say
the
to people out there watching?
No, dude. Who's making the ones of men? So 20% of them. Okay, so it's going, but it's not just women who are being affected. But the way they're reporting this is like only women were affected, and the men are like, "Hey, that's a pretty funny photo of me," and women are like, "This is the Holocaust. This is literally my Holocaust."
Majority of them women.
What do you say to the people out there watching who say, "Oh, she's got a bone to pick with Elon Musk"?
If they want to say my bone to pick is the chatbot undressing minors and myself and stripping me nude, yes, you're right. I have a bone to pick with that. And I don't care who's doing it. So, Elon.
Okay, for one, I can't stand the music anymore, and I'm sure you guys can't either. So we're gonna avoid that because the music is just aggressive. I didn't catch the music when I was listening to it the first time. Was at a lower volume. But this is obviously her this is her crusade. This is her, in her mind, this is her Joan of Arc moment. As she St. Clair has put on the armor. She's in the stable. She's brushing her horse. The lady farmhand has walked out. Milady, what more? What more do you need on your righteous journey? She asked. But you can obviously catch this, right? You can feel this vibe. It's this righteous journey that she's on. And it is just sad. The thing that I will say is I think that she's this issue has defined who she is and always has. And I make that argument in the video as well too. She has been a full-blown feminist her entire career. You know, when she was in the right-wing circuit, the top stuff that she would talk about all the time, her face is weird because it's all plastic. She doesn't look anything like she used to. But it always was her issue. And you saw this from Calendargate to being being the whatever beef that she had with like the way the podcasts were that also extended to Fresh and Fit. And beyond that, like I showed in the video, the most insane thing was she's praising Elon Musk for his purchase, the $44 billion purchase of X, opening it up to free speech. Like people really don't know how much went into that. She's like, and he's telling him, Disney and the advertisers, he's telling them to fuck off. And then 4 minutes later, she's like, and we have to censor YouTube, the whatever podcast. It's the worst thing I've ever seen. Women should be a protected class. You're like, what? So it's obvious that her operant ideals have always been feminism. It's always been women are entirely not wrong whatsoever. She would always pose these arguments as if like the woman discussion is always one-sided. Women don't have a fair voice. You don't hear enough women. And it's like, dude, what reality do you live in that you're not hearing enough women, dude? Like, what do you mean? But these are all extensions of that. These are extensions of the fact that when push came to shove, all of her right-wing girlfriends in the space didn't take her side. They went and they said, this is the worst way to go about it. You intentionally became a single mother. She was outed by people like Isabella Moody, who I go back and forth on. She's just a little too uppity for me. But you have this, and continually going down the line is more and more and more and more in the line of this. And now she's gone full mask off. Now she's pro-transgenderism. Now she's posting these super succubus things, and we'll just start to get into them. And part of it's sad. Part of it is sad because the fact that there are children involved in this. You know, Romulus Musk, I do believe is his name, is going to be involved in this. And now it's gone to a full custody battle. So now the conversation has moved to, with these kind of sentiments that she's pushed there. Oh, somebody super chat. I didn't even catch it. Thank you very much, brother. I appreciate that. From Secred95. Thank you very much. He says, hi, Atlas. I like your stuff and I'm cool. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. That made my day. I don't need any more compliments for another 2 years. That'll get me by. I appreciate it very much, man. Thank you for your super chat and support, man. I forget what I was going with that. Oh, with this mask off moment, Elon Musk is now pursuing full custody of the child, and obviously there's a kid involved in the situation. I don't like thinking about broken home situations for kids, especially not when the whole public gets their say into it as well. But again, alas, pragmatically, what can you do about it? Not much. And so in this custody battle, now there's the argument that because of what she said and her recent statements, there's this insinuation that she's threatening to transition the child. To that effect, I would say I've not seen enough that I would feel like you could make that claim. But maybe I've not seen enough. But from everything I've seen from her, I guess at least I've not seen anything directly kind of implying that or even insinuating that. But I will say, we lived through Jeff Younger. Okay, so if she wanted to, the courts have already shown the precedent. They will protect the mother castrating children. So I don't even think you need much beyond the fact that we already saw it happen. Full spectrum take place going from Texas to California. And thank you very much for the super chat. Yeah, World Champion. He says, Atlas, I can't stand your stuff, and I think you're gay. Damn it! Now I need another compliment. That one set me back one. Now I'm down a compliment. Oh no, this is my Holocaust. No, I'm just messing. No, it kind of is though. And so, and inside of this, you have all this big breakup here. And okay, wow, that is a big super chat. Thank you very much for the super chat, Secret. That is massive. Thank you very much for that, man. Too much, honestly. Way too much. I appreciate that, though. It's just, yeah, never mind. I don't like you anymore. I can't stand it. As long as you got your money's worth. So it's like my wife always says, I don't have friends, I have fans. Don't prove my wife right in front of me. You're humiliating me. That's funny. I appreciate that very much. Okay, now you guys you're doing too much. Boston Miss, you're okay. Now we've leveled it out. Now we're neutral. Now we're balanced. All right, back to where I was before we started. Never said it even. Thank you very much for the super chat. I think I missed one from Smelly Balls. He became a member again. Thank you, Smelly. I appreciate you. Thank you very much, brother. We got to get you calling in again sometime soon on the Graper Report. And JC Emler, I think that's how I would say that. 5708. Thank you very much. He says, I like your stuff and I think I'm handsome. I don't know if I think that profile picture is coming from a woman. So I appreciate that. Thank you very much. No, I'm just kidding. Even if it's from a guy, I think you're handsome too. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. But again, alas, I do appreciate the support, guys. That's tremendous. And I feel like a little giddy teenager. But thank you very much. I appreciate it. All of the support. Thank you, guys. And Todd Sullivan said nothing. He said, F you. Thank you for the super chat. Thank you very much, guys. I do appreciate it. And it does help a lot, especially when YouTube's like, I don't even know if the consequences of women hit over 1,000 views yet. So thank you very much for all of that, guys. I appreciate it. Thank you. But now you made me forget where I was at, though. Now the show is broken. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, you see my red cheeks? I'm going to turn my color corrector off because now you're making me blush. It's supposed to be a man. I appreciate you guys. And again, I can't articulate enough. I appreciate you guys greatly, and I do look forward to seeing you guys' responses, replies, and in pushback too. You know, I know sometimes I might cross some lines for stuff, but thank you very much. Appreciate it. And I will say too, GC Miller, I think you're handsome too. I want to push that out there one more time. I couldn't tell in the profile picture. I'm sorry. Okay, where were we? Right, back to the Jews. No, forgive me. It's not. It wasn't Jews. It was blacks. No, women. One of the big three. Okay, let's just move to this one. Okay. Getting back to where we were at. My broader point with it. Forgive me. My broader point with it all was AI is already rapidly advancing faster than I think we can possibly even understand or expect. And Craig, you have to save money for your wife and kids. Save some for your family. Secret again with another huge $50 super chat. Thank you very much. He says you're gay and your Xbox is gay. I appreciate that. My Xbox, I have a PS5. PlayStation superiority here. Anybody else? PS5 superiority? PlayStation supremacy? PlayStation supremacy, anybody? Oh, that was bad. I'm sweating. Secret, thank you very much, man. I appreciate that greatly. Thank you. But PlayStation for sure. PlayStation supremacy for sure. Now the show is completely off the rails. I can't handle more than a couple of super chats. Apparently, it destroys me. Okay. We got some PC master racers in here. That's funny. Back to the story of the Grok and the war of Ashley St. Clair. The point I was going to make, though, is the fact that AI is like self-replicating. That AI, dude, you guys are doing this on purpose now. Dude, this might actually turn into the worst show ever. That's funny. But Merely Reed says, forgive me, I couldn't see. Worst show yet. Atlas keeps getting derailed. It's true. This is kind of fun, isn't it, right? This is like the most off my game I probably have been. It's still the handsome comment from earlier. That one, I might have to end the stream. Reported for clickbait. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. And again, I wish I was better at showing my appreciation and had some like cool quips and like could be funny, but like I'm just awkward and I'm like, thanks for the dollars. But it does help. It does help tremendously. I just had to spend $40 on diapers 2 days ago. So thank you very much. And it helps my daughter, helps my wife. And helps me make more of these videos and get better at it. Okay. What I was going to say was that AI and technology is advancing, and it's advancing very rapidly. And I don't think at this point in time, you would be able to put any kind of like mechanism that prevents these tools from being used in the way that people would like them to not be getting used. And without having some kind of extreme, like, ban AI completely. And part of the reason we're also not going to get that either is because we're also like in an AI arms race with other nations. And I don't think that I don't think that the American kind of infrastructure right now is in any form. Oh, thank you so many balls for the gifted membership. Appreciate that, buddy. And it looks like Julian the Philosopher became a member. Thank you for the gifted, Smiley. I appreciate you, man. And because of the AI arms race, I'm going to try to talk around everything. This is making me better at public speaking, actually. It's like I like the challenge. America, because of this AI arms race that we're in with China, this AI arms race that we're in with Russia and a bunch of other nations, but mainly China, is part of the reason why I don't see there being, even on the civilian side of things, them putting a hard stop on AI. I just don't see it coming. Now, what they did and seemingly tried to do with the big, beautiful bill was they wanted to centralize it. They wanted to centralize it for 10 straight years. So much so that it would even have superiority over zoning laws, which is brought up by Thomas Massey. And so I think if anybody who wants any kind of control on AI, you're either going to have to get full-blown, completely erasing AI or banning it from civilians and only giving it to the military, or you're just going to have to deal with all the negative externalities that come out with it. Now, that's not to say there can't be any kind of censorship apparatus like on X that moderates this stuff when it's seen. That should have already been in place. But to this idea that you're just going to get people to stop doing bad things goes back to the same idea of like, if we just get rid of all the guns, people will find a way. People have access to this kind of stuff. They will figure it out. Thank you for the Secret 95. Thank you for the 10 gifted. I appreciate that. Thank you very much. More members content's actually coming later this month. Actually, I have an idea for one of the member videos I want to do. And thank you for that for the 10th time. Secret is personally financing my month today. I appreciate you. And Todd Sullivan sent 5 gifted as well. Thank you very much for that. I appreciate it. That is now more of you guys who'll be able to see me on the member side. On the other side. And you just start breakdancing, Radical Greg. I just caught that one. That's funny. AI World Champion says that Mrs. AI World Champion said that I am handsome. Okay. So that's like, it's like split crowd. Okay. So it looks like if I was in Miami, they'd probably be pushing me out. But if I was in San Francisco, I'd be a solid 7. I'll take it, dude. I'll take it, man. These are numbers, dude. We're doing some numbers. But thank you guys tremendously, man. I can't tell you enough. It's a very good feeling to feel like you guys like the content, you know. And obviously, I think that's one of the biggest things people struggle with when they make stuff and they want to talk about things. Is because they fear that no one's going to like anything they have to say. And sometimes it's because people really don't have anything to say. So it's just a good feeling, and it's something that I've always wanted to do for a long time. So I appreciate you guys for helping make it possible, because I literally wouldn't be here without you. You have my permission to ask Grok to put me in a bikini. That's funny. Thank you for the super chat, Merely Reed. That's a really good one. I'm losing track so bad. Okay, the next question with Ashley St. Clair is she worse than Amber Heard? That's the next question that needs to be asked. And so what you're seeing across the timeline is a general reaction to a lot of what she had been putting out. I'm waiting for like the next sound the ding's going to go off. I'm like scared now. But you have this tweet here from Norm McDonald, and he says, "Call me crazy, but I don't think you should be doing stuff like this when you have a toddler at home." And the general reaction and what you're seeing here is one more post that broke the internet. It's kind of similar to the Kim K, the post that broke the internet. You have Ashley St. Clair, who has tied herself to her own stake that she put up there, that she set a camera in front of, that she got the rope for, that she purchased at a Home Depot in modern day 2020 whatever, to put sticks up there that she set the fire herself so she could stand up there to take a photo. Scare sound. That's funny. I switched to this scene doesn't have the overlay on it because for some reason it was like doubling up, but you'll hear it on the other one when I switch back to it. That's funny. I'm like, I couldn't get the overlay to not double up on the sounds. I don't understand it. Stream Elements, help me out. I need to contact support on that one, I think. But this photo is indicative of this behavior. It's here. I'll give Secret a sound. It's coming. Any moment now. Any moment now. Okay, maybe not. Maybe I'm actually retarded. Okay. It's going to come like an hour from now. It's going to get me. But this photo is disgusting. This photo is everything that feminism is this photo. And it highlights a much bigger problem. And it is the fact that feminism has gone so far that it is, for one, just an outright subversive and corrosive ideology, but it is inherently at this point in time completely delusional. And don't ever forget too, Lauren Southern was also a part of this. I wanted to make sure we got this one as well too. And what you're looking at are two women who were some of the top features across the right-wing political circuit, podcast circuit, from essentially 2020 to towards the end of 2023, some into 2024. These were the girls who were coming in and saying, here's what the men have wrong about women from a right-wing perspective. Are you kidding me? These women are feminist. They had no business in being in the right wing in the first place. At all. Zero, zilch, nada, nothing. And so, and just to show you, here's another post. Like, just to show you, this is another post, and this is going to get copyrighted, but I want to play it because the music's important. Let me full screen this here. She's making posts like this now. I don't know if many people caught this one, but she put this on her Instagram. I think she's been pushing and swinging a lot of people like, come to Instagram, you know, come follow me there. Don't follow me on X anymore. I'm done with the platform. It's just run by a bunch of Nazis, whatever. She's been going on these crazy tangents. But listen to the song that's in the background here.
You're killing people. No, I'm killing boys. Boys are just placeholders. They come and they go.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is a succubus if I have ever seen one. This is the closest thing that I think you guys will probably ever see. Was the mixing bad? I apologize if I blew your eardrums out. I'm sorry. I didn't know how loud it would have been. But that is a succubus. And quite literally, you can't get any more correct and vindicated than the people who were originally leading the calendar gate. Her voice is blown out. I apologize. I have to do the fixing. Listen, and to be fair, Tix Bomber, he's right here, sent me a bunch of stuff about mixing. I bookmarked it, and I didn't touch it since then. So I will come back with better mixing, because I do know I've been getting a lot of complaints about that and the differing sound levels. I want to be professional. We want to be legitimate here. We don't want to be like Josh Vandernoy or Zeb Boykin. Those guys, no, I'm just kidding. But she is a succubus. And that is quite literally the closest thing to like a siren that you would hear about in Greek mythology than I think that you can actually get. And so she intentionally got herself made as a single mother. Now she's going on CBS, leading this war against Grok and putting out these posts that Elon Musk, she doesn't think the 44 billion was for free speech. Now she thinks it was like, Elon's just he's ingrown with this pedophilic, all this nature. And she's been pushing that heavily too, which is like the fact that they're doing on children. And to that degree, why there's not an automatic thing in Grok that protects for that, or it can't recognize that's what the user's asking for. I think that's kind of insane. That should be in there. But somebody did tell me there are moderation and safety measures already on Grok. So like certain things that you can't generate. So it's unsure like how much he's kind of exacerbating here, because I doubt she's going to be like, and now look at this photo. And of the ones they put in the CBS thing, it's just stuff that you can open your phone to in Grok Imagine. So, but they'll push it because that's one of the easiest things to push. Now, moving on from Ashley St. Clair, and I feel like I was literally all over the place with that one because of super chat, so we'll just move off from that. What we have with James Fishback and Sophie Rain is James Fishback is proposing a sin tax, which is this idea that it's less so that they want the taxes and they want the money from this stuff, but it's more so that it's a sin tax because in name they want to identify it as a sin. And the whole effort of taxing it at the rate they are proposing, 50%, is to disincentivize the behavior. And so what we have here, and this is going to be from Nayland Haley, who is the son of Nikki Haley. I have his tweet here. And this is an edit that was done by somebody, which is already done. We'll play that here in a second. But you have a couple different schools of thought on this that you can already see. It's already kind of proliferating somewhat as well. And Nayland, I think it's how you say it, Nayland, he says we should just ban all these platforms anyway. It's no different than prostitution. It exploits women, targets underage boys, and it's harmful to society. And to that, I agree. I would be completely fine with OnlyFans, Pornhub, all the rest, all the major, all porn, banned, period, gone, boom, bada bang, done. But there's also people, like I think I saw this from Lizzie Marbach and a few of the other kind of sewing circle Christians that somebody pointed out in chat earlier, that the sewing circle Christians are opposing it because now they're saying, well, this just means the government profits off of prostitution, so we can't be pro this either. And again, that is removed from the pragmatic realities of the world, which is we have seen how hard it has been to make banning porn in these different states at the state level is very difficult. And I think even at right now, like what they had to move to instead of banning it outright was move to like 18-year-old protections, move to forcing them to verify and give confirmation of age. That's how badly the fight against porn has been. there are so many men, both on the left and the right, who are pro it. They find it to be a free form of expression. I disagree with that. I don't think that that should be protected under the First Amendment. I don't think that you could even say that pornography in any sense of the word is anything beyond just degenerate filth. I don't think that you can take a photo of Ashley St. Clair and put a sepia filter on it and call it art. It's just porn. But there are some people who make that argument. There are some people who will say it's all these weirdo, like hippy dippy liberals from San Francisco who are like, that's art. And it's like a black dude walking on his hands and knees, like covered in black paint. And he like rolls over and they're like, oh my gosh, you're like clapping for it. What? No. That stuff is like, that's not political speech. That is not pertinent to the discussions at large. There could be political speech about banning pornography, but pornography in and of itself, no, not at all. And so I'm pro this with James Fishback. I'm hesitant to say I'm pro Fishback myself too, but at this point in time I am, and I am in the most kind of simplest of terms. And I made this argument in the video as well too. My argument is, as long as he is, fake or not, parroting the rhetoric that aligns with America First, that takes it further and goes deeper, and is taking the torch from Vivek Ramaswamy and taking it further to the rhetoric where we are, with America First and the Groypers, that to me is a plus. And it's a plus, especially so, because if he wins or has any amount of success, right? Vivek lost, but they called his campaign a success because of the numbers, because of going from not in the race to at 8%. If Fishback can get really good numbers, even if he doesn't win against Byron Donalds, I think that would be a good sign that there is a large hunger for people who want what Fishback is selling. And furthermore, if he beats Byron Donalds, this goes even beyond that, which is if he wins on that, beats Byron Donalds, who got a $45 million war chest from the Adelsons, then what people are going to see is it doesn't going to matter how much money you get. The people are so radically opposed to this, they will vote for the person who even in the slightest is pushing America First ideals. And so we're probably going to see a bit of that with both Casey and James Fishback in both of these elections. Now, the thing is I do think Vivek's a stronger candidate than Byron Donalds. The only thing is, in Florida though, he was Byron was basically like the knighted heir. And for good portions of time, it did seem like him and Ron DeSantis had a very good relationship, and very similarly to Trump and JD, it was expected. A lot of people in Florida are just expecting Byron Donalds just walks in, hence why it was so uncontested. So for that end, I'm pro that. The only issue is the sewing circle Christians are against it because they're like, the government's going to make money off prostitution. No way. But it's removed from the pragmatic sense of this is still better than nothing. And it's like the government, our government traffics children and underage people already. What do you mean? We're imposing morality on the government now? We should. But on this end, as a disincentivization strategy, we got to maintain the pressure. It should be there. And if Florida can do it, that'll be a positive chain reaction if other states would propose it too. In Florida in particular, it's very important and pertinent too, because Florida has an extreme density of these OnlyFans creators. Also, Sophie Rain is from Florida. This is why she's had such a strong response, and part of the reason why I think Fishback has targeted her. Because I think they're, whatever they call it, the Bop House, which is another name for whore. Hers is in Florida. And so I think that would rope in some other big creators who are attached to her too. But here's this clip here. I wanted to play it here because I think this is an edit here, if I remember right. Yeah, from Frontierism. But just to give a gist of the energy behind Fishback and where it's going. 1.1 million views. He continues to ascend.
And so if I'm governor...
Nope. I already knew what I was going to do.
Of Florida, if I'm elected on August 18th, 2026, as the Republican candidate to succeed Ron DeSantis, we're passing a 50% tax on all OnlyFans income. And guess what? For Sophie Rain, who is a proud resident of Florida, that means she's going to have to pay $42 million. $42 million to the state of Florida, which I'm going to use for two purposes. We're going to increase public school teacher pay, and we're going to improve school lunches, something that Michelle Obama promised and never got around to.
And I would say the best part about it too, I would say the funniest part about it is Sophie Rain, in her response video, she was like, I can think of better ways to raise funds than doing this. And it's like, who said the goal of this tax was to raise funds? Like, the goal of this is to like make you not feel comfortable doing what you're doing, and that you make less money off of it, and it's less profitable, and less women do it altogether. But her initial response was the best. Her initial response that she tweeted back, well, she tweets back, she fires back at James Fishback, and she says, oh, this sounds like a guy who has buyer's remorse. This sounds like a guy who spent all of his money on an OnlyFans girl and regrets it. What? Is she taking his side? She's trying to humiliate him for being a simp, which is her customer base. Which is the only reason she makes money is because a bunch of other men give her their salaries. What? Like, what is the thinking here? And I don't expect any to come from a female, and much less so to come from an OnlyFans girl. But man, like, she really gave the party away there. And so that's just an aside, and good on him for it, you know. And he also, I think he broke that with Joel Wibben on the New Christian Right Studios and XR Studios, which go and subscribe to them as well. But I was just blown away that those were some of her takes, and it's like she has no idea what the purpose is here. Now, what I will say, and this is one thing that I did think about, is just in general nature, because this is how these OnlyFans girls operate, and they are shameless, there is no bad publicity. There's none. An OnlyFans girl can do some of the most degenerate, most shameful, would make your ancestors grab a shotgun, and that they only get stronger. And so there is an element of this that just from Fishback, you know, taking aim at Sophie Rain, it's like, wow, who's Sophie Rain? And then more men find out who she is, more men, you know, subscribe to the OnlyFans. But to use that as an argument that like he shouldn't target Sophie Rain or go to OnlyFans girls is insane. It's like they're all like that. It doesn't matter like which one. It's like, you know, it's like yelling at them makes them stronger. They become they can become more degenerate. I don't think that's a good argument to say no, he shouldn't do that. But I'm sure we'll see more of a feminine response coming from this. I can't wait to see Allie Beth Stuckey come out. Christian pastor. And here's why I'm taking the side of Sophie Rain. Can't wait for Ashley St. Clair to come out and go, and Sophie Rain is spot on. Can't wait for Lauren Southern to say, and here's the misogyny in James Fishback's. It's coming. It's coming. Just, I'm telling you, I don't know what it is right now. I thought about it earlier today. I don't know what it is. But just wait, because it's coming. The feminist answer to why Fishback is wrong and OnlyFans girls should still be allowed to work, it's coming. They're working on it. They're crafting it right now. They're going ham in the girl group chat. It's coming. And I'm telling you, that may be what they're going for already. Thank you. Thank you very much. Secret, thank you very much for the other super chat, man. Now you're kind of making me, now I feel like I'm getting guilted a little bit. But thank you for the super chat, man. That's a lot of money to send. I appreciate you, man. Don't put yourself out. But Secret 95 says, hey man, big fan. What are your thoughts on things? Thoughts? I have thoughts sometimes. Yeah, unfortunately, Secret has bought me at the low price of I think $160. Secret has bought me at a price, which is massive and huge, dude. So thank you very much for that. It's massive. I appreciate it. So now I am owned. I'm not owned by APEC, though. I'm owned by Secret 95. Which is better. Obviously, objectively better. I'm sure he's not Jewish. I'm just messed. That's a terrible thing to say. I'm sorry for doing all that. I appreciate it very much, man. I'm just having fun up here. And Julian Philosopher says, I was sitting here just listening. I'm glad Atlas said it on stream or would have missed it. Seemed grateful. Thank you very much and God bless. Shout out to all the people who put in the memberships and gifted memberships out to the rest of the community. We get stronger, bigger, faster, smarter. Am I missing one? Faster, stronger, smarter. I feel like I'm missing one. Well, that's all I want to be. Faster, smarter, stronger. Forget the rest. I got my 3. Thank you very much, though. I can't thank you enough. And new X account trackered. Funny. And yeah, and thank you for whoever put the Discord link in there too as well. I saw that chat in there earlier. I forgot to revisit it. But in line with all of this, and to show you like a bit more of what's happening in the Florida governor race, to show you why I do think there is more elements that will help Fishback. Let me go to this here for you. This is Jay Collins. And where is it? Right here. This is Jay Collins. Now, Jay Collins, because I think he only recently started running. I'm positive that Jay Collins is running from the race now. Let me just double check this before I do this. Jay Collins running for governor. Type words in it. Yeah, okay, he is. So Jay Collins is officially running for governor. I could remember because he's Florida's lieutenant governor right now. And you won't believe this story. This is a real image. This is the real image, and we have video footage from him from this event, sitting there and glazing and opining over Israel and the Jews. This is AI generated. This is what his wife changed the background to. Now, if you just go and you just type in Jay Collins, you should be able to find the video immediately because it was clipped. Well, that's crazy. There was a video of it. Sorry, forgive me for a second. I'm trying to find the. Maybe I could be wrong about this actually, but I'm positive that it was the other way around. I swear to God, there was a video of him talking at this event. All right, I'm going to eat one for the team. Pause. Because I think I'm getting this video and that photo mixed up. Okay, just to add a little bit of nuance in there, just to give it a pause, I could actually be completely wrong on this. Does that mean he's any less of an Israeli shill? No. But maybe we need to see some bit more corroboration from it. The only reason that I took it for granted was because the account I pulled it from, let me go back to it. This account has been one of the main accounts boosting James Fishback. So I guess we'll let that sit there. I thought we watched that video on stream too, and I remember there being Israeli flags behind him. So I guess we'll let time tell on this one. Now I feel like I got Mandela affected or something. Secret actually is tracking me. He's been here the whole time. Thank you very much, brother. I appreciate it. Secret, if you might just see that, I apologize. Secret says, I don't know why it does the $10 ones. It grays out. It's like for whatever reason it grays that dollar slot out. And I apologize. I'll have to figure out the colors. But he says, last one, I'm sorry to say something that I'm sure you've heard before, but that intro edit is so great that she'd get up and get out, say Christ is Lord, edit is saying the good. I love it. Have a great night. Thank you very much. Thank you. And you have a great night as well. This has been a tremendous stream. I've had a lot of fun doing it. But thank you very much for that. And I do have on my to-do list, it's not anywhere near the top, but I do have on my to-do list to get the full edit wrapped and attached to the song and publish that. People have been asking for the full song, and I think it's only in the edits, only like the first minute of like a 2.5 minute song. So I do have plans to get the full thing out there, but it's just not near the top of the list right now. But in terms of this though, this seems to be an ongoing story then, and I'm kind of sitting here going like, who's right, who's correct? But once again, thank you again to Secret for being a massive supporter of the show. I guess I'll be waiting to see when this is going to be interesting. And the real video of the entire press conference takes a couple. Okay.
It's great stuff.
Whoa, dude. Dang, dude. Where's the volume control on this? Okay. Fair enough, dude. Fair enough. I'll take that. Looks like we were wrong, champ. Okay. Well, I was wrong. But that is supposedly Jake Collins at this event. That's him right here. That's the American flag. Now it's zoomed in a little bit, but yeah, I mean, it looks closer to like what she had posted. So these things don't help at all in the slightest. Making fabricated claims of this kind of stuff does not help whatsoever. These people already harmed themselves enough. We don't need to be making up fake stuff. There is already enough ammunition in the glove box. Use what you have. 8 wrong still starts with a W. Dude, that's good. That's good. That's good. But listen, I'm like, I'll always try to be as fair and be as honest as God allows. So I will always say when I'm wrong, which isn't very often, but you know, sometimes can happen. Come on, we're not all perfect, okay? But that's kind of wild. Okay, so now if you see this being pushed, at least you know what's up with it. And I can't believe it's almost been 2 hours too. I feel like I covered one story. But I appreciate you guys, and we're moving along. So we do have this one. This is I want to move to this one. I want to move to this one because I already said it at the top. I'll probably drop the rest of it, and I'll move it on to tomorrow because we are going to be doing a casual stream tomorrow, and tomorrow's stream might be very, 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 very long. So prepare yourself for tomorrow's stream. So here's this one. This is the one. This is the one that I think people are going to be mad at me for. Well, people were mad at me earlier. I guess I got nothing else to lose. This is the one that people are going to be mad at me for. This is the reason why. Less so even the Venezuela one, although I wanted that to be. That was the main front of featured story. This is the real reason I'm trying to put the in defense of Nick Fuentes here. And that is because the top thing with Nick today is that everybody is arguing that Nick is arguing like in defense of pedophilia, or that he's arguing in some way to like not care about what Epstein did. And so what I'm going to show you is 2 clips. I'm going to show you the first one that's being shared by everybody. The one that's being, and I do argue it's quite literally taken out of context, and also the direction that a lot of this is going. So you have Shadow of Ezra, Clandestine, Stu Peters, DDG Sarah, and I guess I'll just let the clip speak for itself, and I'll come back in. But here's the clip that's being circulated. It's the 51-second one.
This whole pedo thing, it's like, is it really pedophilia? I don't want to be the one that has to say it, but I guess I'm being forced to say it. It's not really pedophilia, okay? They weren't trafficking 5-year-olds. It was like they were technically not legal. Big difference, in my opinion. I know that's a controversial take, but that's not really the issue there, okay? The issue is not that they were barely legal teens, which is what it is. It's horrendous. It's awful. It's pedophilia. Okay, relax. No, the issue is that Epstein is a Jewish spy, probably working with Israel. That's the dilemma there. He's working with Israeli intelligence.
So what's cut from this, actually, if we go to Kaiser Rev's clip, because on both the front and the back end, in between this, with the statement here, is his point being about what's more of an issue with the Epstein is the Israeli blackmail operation, less so the actual content of the crime. This is the point he's making. So as it says here, going to a Nick clipper, someone who didn't take him out of context, as you can see, it's a little bit longer. Nick Fuentes says the main issue with Epstein is that he's an Israeli spy, not the allegations of PDF accusations. So here's the long form, and I'll just play it, and you'll notice where it catches to the first one.
The problem with Epstein is that he is a Jewish spy. That's the problem. This whole pedo thing, it's like, is it really pedophilia? I don't want to be the one that has to say it, but I guess I'm being forced to say it. It's not really pedophilia, okay?
And that thing that gets us to like right where we were.
They weren't trafficking 5-year-olds. It was like,
which I do believe the reporting of the median age is about 14 years old. And so here's where I'm going to come in on this. Because this is, and it's also more so, and if anything, it is like a semantic argument. And this is one of those situations where this is actually applying a lot of these kind of modern sensibilities. And so if we're using, so let me just actually reverse this here. Let me reverse this here. If these are your standards, then King David and King Solomon are pedophiles. If these are your standards, Joseph, who married Mary, who is the mother of God, is also a pedophile. Abraham is a pedophile. Isaac is a pedophile. Jacob is a pedophile, and you could go down and down and down. It does come down to a semantic argument, and it is applying through the lens of modern sensibilities. Now, I also really don't care about the whole, what's the word? I don't really care too much about the semantics because it's different in different states, even in here in the United States. In some states it's 16, in some states it's 17, some states it's 18. Some states have Romeo and Juliet laws. But for the vast majority of human history, that was like standard practice. Was, marriageable by 12, birthing at 14. I mean, this is you can just look this up with a very simple Google search. You can find this. And so it's also in that vein that I do think on both sides. One side, you can make the argument that because of there has been all this kind of societal change, maybe there is an element of there needs to be an argument and a consensual, and there needs to be a statute of age limit somewhere. And I would agree with that because I do think there's obviously a big difference between 14 and 12. And I'm not an expert by any means. But obviously the 18 to 16 element is a joke because in some states it's legal and in some states it's not. So who's right? And where's the argument then? Because that would mean if some women hold the belief it's 18 no matter what, then we have states that are protecting pedophiles. And this is even separate of the Epstein argument. Now I get it's a bit semantic. But the overall still comes back to why are we applying modern sensibilities to this argument, right? And this is also the default flaw of the modern Republican and the modern Christian movement, which is they constantly shun God's law. They shun things in the Bible due to modern sensibilities. You see this with Paul and Timothy. Timothy might be the most omitted book in modern day because they don't like what Paul said. You don't get to pick and choose. So to me, I do agree. Somebody said it in here earlier. I do think to be offended by something like this, you have to have some levels of element of being a feminist. That's not to excuse any of the behavior. There are reports of there being 8-year-olds, 11-year-olds as well, but I do think that's the lowest the age goes. Not like that makes it better at all, whatsoever. But there is a semantic argument to be made about the way that we have adopted and the way that we look at what is marriageable and women's actual role in society, the protections of women, how those social standards should be engaged with. But the overall thing is the point is I do think he's right. I do think the more important element that matters to the American political ecosystem is what were they being blackmailed for? Right? What was the purpose of said blackmail? What was the purpose of recording these people doing these acts? And yes, Jackson, you're right. They can use these things because of modern sensibilities. Most people will be appalled because they have adopted the modern social values. But this is once again one of these elements that's being used, and I would argue I've Project Esther's in full force. This is one of these other elements that they are trying to divide all of the anti-Israel groups completely and entirely, and put them at such odds they don't find each other trustworthy. And now now the Fed jacketing's coming in like crazy. Now people are saying, Nick is, and it just continues down this line here. And I would say the unfortunate element to it all is none of it helps. Not a single element of it helps. And I would argue too, like I do think a big portion of this is pearl clutching. This is kind of the same thing that they do with the Muslims when they like scream at the top of their lungs, like how old was your God when he had a child wife, et cetera, et cetera. And to me, it is missing the point. It's being divisive. And I'm not somebody who's going to sit here and be like divisive for no reason. I'm saying specifically, it has felt like since the moment that Nick gave his eulogy on Charlie Kirk, they have utilized every element of Project Esther to divide people and separate the groups that are the most prominent against the Israeli establishment force, the Zionist occupied force. So to those ends, I just wouldn't get too caught up in it. And to me too, it's like, if King David would be a pedophile by today's standards, like what would that tell you? What does that say? Right. And the thing that bothers me the most is it's like, I always keep this in mind too. Like I would never care in the slightest what the world's values are. The world's values put Jesus Christ on the cross. The world's values is what crucified Jesus Christ. And if there was a perfect man, and there was, who walked this earth again, this world would do it to him one more time. So I don't care or have the slightest ounce of wanting to even know what is said by people who are not Christian. And also to that effect, also like not biblically literate too. But I'm not going to be sitting here pearl clutching because the 2026 standards of dating was like not honored by Nick Fuentes. I find that to be something that's very, very small and minuscule to get caught up on. And I think people are just they've been personally offended by Nick Fuentes, which to that I don't understand. Like he's talking to a camera, like you can put the phone down. But all of that to say, again, like this is, to me, I think it's gotten out of hand. And I think a lot of it does go along with the lines of trying to divide and erode and corrode the trust of Nick that he's built with his followers. And I kind of had an idea that this would happen too, just given the fact that he went on a generational run. This is now, he's kind of quintupled his fan base in the matter of 2 years. And so a lot of these people might be jaded when they hear, when they see a clip from him from 2021 talking about, the Holocaust. They might get jaded when they hear him talking about some black person because they, maybe only had heard the Israeli and Iran takes. And when they see the full-fledged take, they're like, oh, I didn't know all this. So to offer that up for you. But I'm just, again, to come full circle on that, I'm not going to ever in my life, ever apply modern sensibilities to a situation. To me, it's like, I will apply like what are Christian values? Like, what does the Bible say? And I would ask too, like, if anyone could give me an answer of what the Bible says, like when women should be married, please put that answer, chapter and verse, I'm sure it's out there somewhere. Nobody's just found it yet. And if you feel like, you can't articulate or don't have an understanding of what the Christian value or proposition is, it's like, well, there you go. Then maybe you don't understand what the full comprehensive idea of what marriage is and what the roles of men and women were. And I think the only person who would be offended by something like that would be someone who thinks women are equal to men. And those are just thoughts off the top of my head. One thing I want to cover too. Riley Gaines was talking about, she was wearing she had to wrap her child in a bulletproof blanket to go talk about women's sports. Literally the most retarded thing I've ever heard. If you're getting death threats, like it is not, again, like the world will be fine if they do not hear Riley Gaines talking about women's sports. We'll all be okay. Well, I swear, we'll hold the fort down for you. Look at this. Well, we're all tackling we're not anti-Semitism. We're tackling feminism today. So let's do another one of these feminism ones. I'll put it on screen here for you. Run the Gaines says she had to wrap her 3-month-old baby in a bulletproof blanket because of the threats against her. Absolutely insane. Gaines spoke outside the Supreme Court on Tuesday in defense of women's sports. Actually insane. Here it is.
On the Supreme Court steps. And honestly, like, just as you said, like, there's a level of emotion to it, especially when you have to consider the fact you have a 3-month-old baby that you have to wrap in a bulletproof blanket because of the threats that were present there yesterday.
Yeah.
That is who we're fighting for. And all these Democrats and their insane policies and the things they say and the things they support, I think 130 congressional Democrats signed a brief supporting the boys in the case. They think they're giving the middle finger to President Trump. That's not who they're giving the middle finger to. They are giving the middle finger to my little baby girl, again, who you have to wrap in like a little bulletproof vest, because the other side, and again, talking about what we saw visibly on the Supreme Court steps, our rally, again, I call it the pro-woman, pro-reality, pro-science, pro-fairness, pro-truth, pro-safety side of the aisle. I mean, we weren't even 50 feet from those who were there to support the pro-trans agenda.
So here we are once again. The most difficult thing a woman can do in her lifetime is, well, number one is being quiet. And number two is staying at home with their children. What are we doing? What if you were getting death threats? Like even at that point, it's like you can go and talk, sure, like whatever, go boss girl it up. But do you have to bring your kid? And if you have to bring your kid and you have to be with them for whatever reason, then keep them at home. Like that's just an idiotic to take them into a knowingly endangered environment. Like such is the state of feminism. I'll be the one to do it. And for women's sports of all things too, like it'd be one thing if she was coming out and she was like, I have to say this when getting death threats, but I'm the key witness in the Jeffrey Epstein trial. Like, okay, that's one thing. It's an entirely other thing when she's like, and men shouldn't be swimming with women. Don't shoot my baby. we can have that conversation. Why don't you call in from Zoom? We can have the conversation. I don't think it's that important that it needs to be shouted from the steps of the Supreme Court. And if anything, if she was actually truly conservative, she'd be caring about things that are a lot more important than that are actually upstream from some, from that stupid transgender stuff in the women's sports. It's just blew me away. It absolutely blew me away. But one final thing I wanted to cover here, before I go ahead and wrap it all out. I'm going to take a few of these. Shabbos Kestenbaum, Erica Kirk, Nick, and Dan Bongino, the ICE agent, and Casey Putsch, I'm going to cover tomorrow because I know I'm going to be streaming for a long time tomorrow. I'm probably going to be doing another 4 hour, probably maybe even longer than that. I'm going to make this break screen too so I can go piss in between. But I want to cover this one too. And so while we're just like online with all these feminist stuff, let's just get out of my system. This one blew me away. This is Oprah Winfrey talking about the obesity gene. This is from Ollie London as well. Oprah Winfrey blames being overweight for most of her life on having an obesity gene. And just like the gay gene, no one can tell you where it is or what it does or how it even functions, but it's there. Blew me away. Absolutely blew me away.
Standing there with all the food noise, what I ate, what I should eat, how many calories was that, how long is it going to take? I thought that was because of me and my fault. Yeah. Now I understand that if you carry the obesity gene, if that is what you have, that is what makes you overeat. You don't overeat and become obese. Right. Obesity causes you to overeat. Right. Obesity causes you to have all of that food noise. And what the GLP-1s have done for me, and I know a number of other people, is to quiet that noise. Yeah. All these years, I thought.
It's just like, it's so sad, dude. People are seriously so just pathetic. I'm lacking other words, but people are just pathetic. They are soft. They are weak. They are quite literally inferior to our ancestors. You know, and me included. Like it doesn't go outside me, but brother, like anything, a woman, especially a black woman, would do anything besides being responsible or accountable. Blaming it on some gene that doesn't exist when you don't have the discipline to control what goes in your mouth hole. And this is supposedly like one of these, she's on The View. She's one of these top, you know, supposed like thought leader and commentators in like the left wing. Holy shit, dude. Forgive me. I shouldn't say that. Dude, what are we doing here? And people eat it up. They eat it up. They're like, you know what? It's definitely not all the ice cream. It's not the 1,200 calorie Starbucks drink I drink every morning. It's definitely not the Pepsis I drink. It's definitely that I have the obese gene and the doctor's hiding it from me. The doctors are out to get me. What I will say is this. She was born. It was always against her. She never had a chance. Well, for Oprah Winfrey, when they ban Ozempic, that'll be her Holocaust. And what I will say is this. I don't think that there will ever... I think in terms of being able to solve the problem that is feminism, I don't think we'll be able to accomplish that from the ground. I'm increasingly being convinced to feel like we're going to need top-down monarch level power who just says one day, no, if the women show up to the voting booths, we're going to arrest them. If I catch one woman at a voting booth on election day, you're going to jail. Like, because you see the quality of men. You guys know how many simps there are. I don't think they're going to be able to put it on a vote. Woman, will you come and vote for your vote to never exist again? I think it will have to come from like a king who comes in and says, dude, listen, I've been saying this. The WQ is the most powerful of all three. I actually think the weakest is the race. I think the weakest question is the race. Then second is the JQ, and then it's the WQ. And the thing is, if the WQ is solved, the other two Qs would be easier to tackle. So which one is the most powerful? Which one presents itself everywhere? We are going to need a king. We're going to need someone like King David who comes out and says no. Complain all you want. Men, avoid Facebook for the next couple of weeks. But women, you shall never vote again. As long as I am king in this nation, you shall not vote. You shall not. Today obviously was a bit different than normal. So we find ourselves here towards the end. But I'm not. But I had a great time, and hopefully you guys had a great time too as well. Anybody who's joined late will probably understand once we're around like the 30-minute mark, to be honest. And I can't thank you guys enough. For anybody who did support, super chat, all of it, thank you greatly. For the memberships, for everything. It helps me make and continue doing what I do. And again, it would literally not be possible without the support from you guys for me to be able to take the time and do what I do and be able to spend the time researching and thinking and writing stuff out. So thank you for that. Truly, tremendously. I appreciate it. My wife appreciates it, and my daughter appreciates it, even though she can't say nothing. But as always, Christ is king. Seek first the kingdom of God. It is the thing that matters the most. Seek first. That is what you need to be pursuing first and foremost. Obviously, I get involved with it too. I want to know what the hottest takes are. I want to be online all the time. I am terminally online. But what matters the most at the end of the day is your relationship with Jesus Christ. It is your faith. It is your belief. It is your ability to walk with that faith. It is your ability to repent. It is everything that goes in the line with walking the walk and being in the love that is the truth, that is Jesus Christ. And again, I'm a notorious church hopper myself. I get it. I understand it. And I'll say this always, find better digital resources. There's a lot of them. I will always point people to Joel Webben and Stone Choir, although they're oppositional to each other and they'd probably both hate me for saying that. I would put both of them on. Open your mind, unlearn things that you felt like you've learned that were poorly. And especially if you don't have a good church to go to, I encourage people heavily to dive into these resources. A lot of people don't even realize what's being held back from them. Or what's being omitted, I should say. But at the end of it all, deport Kash Patel, deport Pam Bondi, ban women, just ban women. Everywhere, anyhow, all the ways that applies. Ban women from the United States, send them all back. America will be a male-only nation. Just kidding. But guys, it's been a pleasure. I appreciate you greatly. I will see you guys tomorrow for a hot minute, for a long time. I'll post in the Discord when I plan to go. But since it's casual, it won't be at 6 p.m. It'll probably be a little bit before then. I'll probably wait for Zeb Boykin to finish streaming as well. And also make sure you tune in to the Friday show with me and Zeb Boykin. It'll be, Groyper versus Wignet, Groyper versus non-Groyper on Joel Webben and the Nick Fuentes series. And I will see you guys then. Have a good rest of your night and God bless. Take care.
Get up and get out. Get out. Get out.
I have a question for you.
Say Christ is Lord. Say Christ is Lord. Say it. You say Christ is Lord. Get out. Get out. Christ is Lord.